Oh, it looks like it's going to take a minute. Oh, I hope it gives me adequate time. It's like halfway. Okay, done. Redirecting to YouTube. Here we go. All right, just like that, we're doing it. We're live. Okay. The content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. I believe you're going to get a little notification there if you don't mind accepting. Perfect. And then I'm going to turn this one on mute so I can't hear my reverb. All right, there we go. Can you still hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Phenomenal. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. For any of you guys that might think that the two of us look alike or maybe sound alike, you're not wrong. There's something there. But what I'm going to ask Kila is if you don't mind going ahead and jumping right on into what you do. This is exactly why I'm going to be editing the other version. We've got the live on YouTube right now, but what is it you do? Who is it that you are?
All right. So by trade, I am actually a certified life coach and transformation specialist and an elite trainer. So that's kind of cool because it gives me a combination of different kind of formal training and experience in my background to draw from. I'm also a career management professional. So when we're taking a look at that holistic piece of helping to coach people through lifestyle design, basically is what I specialize in. And mindset mastery. I have a lot of the little pieces of the puzzle to put together so that I can work with people as they go through different life transitions and those kinds of things. So that's a little bit about my formal background and my training. But what really brings me to the table when it comes to wanting to help other people co-create and design this incredible life is just the knowledge that I found out experientially, how much can really happen even after 50. And that we might sit on, waiting for a while and think that we can't really make much happen if we've been this way for so long. But what really puts a fire in my belly with helping is that idea that no matter what point you're at in your life, we have the ability to exact incredible and phenomenal change. So we use all those pieces of the puzzle to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if you guys didn't quite catch that, yes, this lovely lady we're talking to is in fact over 50. So I know I wouldn't believe it either if I wasn't her daughter. But that's like Kila, my mom has mentioned, this is one of those things that you don't have to do in your 20s. You can do it at any point in your life and thrive from it. I really appreciate that. So I would love to know in the last few years, how has the way that you've approached your mindset mastery, your fitness and health influenced your lifestyle?
That's such a great question because it's something I think that when we're really engaged in service in our work or service to our families, we don't really stop and think about the source of where that service is coming from, which was something that I had a reckoning with a couple of years ago. I'd say it started really around, being worn out and feeling tired and not realizing why, putting so much into other areas of my life, but not really engaging in the self-care that I needed to, take care of that goose that's going to lay those golden eggs for other people. And so I came to some health challenges, and I had loving people in my family who I could actually see that they were getting afraid now. I was basically about 198.9, I think, being that I'm on almost 5'2", but not quite. That's a shocking state of pressure to put on my whole body. And so, of course, I couldn't feel physically or mentally up to the game. And I started to realize that I was now moving backwards. And so I really came to this epiphany that I needed to start taking better care of myself so that I could keep taking care of the people that were important to me in my life. And so, the weight was one of it, but that was really just a symptom. And I realized at that point that I needed to do some digging and really understand the root of what was going on with me, because that was the best way I was going to have the clear sight and the insight into what was going to help other people, especially women my age, or people who had really sacrificed a lot in terms of their time for the family and self-care to put into work and other things. It sneaks up on you and you don't realize how much of that you're putting into other areas of your life. So that really, a couple of years ago, and then COVID kind of came, and I realized I'm not going to come out of this the same way I went in. I'm going to use this opportunity and I'm going to make some dramatic changes. And if I don't, that's on me. I have no excuses. And so, it started with a little of kick my own butt and a lot of self compassion and really forgiving myself for having gotten into a situation that I felt like I was slowly losing my control on, and allowing myself to understand that I had, been doing what I'd been doing with what I had because I thought that's what I had to do just to get by. But then I allowed myself the little bit of space and grace to understand that I could let those things go and not beat myself up for having, had certain habits or been in certain patterns. Just acknowledge them for what they were, kind of let that go, and then move on from there. And that's basically what precipitated my big transformation that resulted in me not just, purging 80 pounds of unwanted emotional and physical weight, but also in just reconnecting with who I am and understanding that there was nothing wrong with me all along. I just wasn't my best self yet.
Okay. So that kind of answered already the next question that I have for you. So then in your experience, how important would you say that mindset is in terms of making a positive change in your life? Not one just for a temporary, but for a long-term sustainable positive change.
Mastering that mindset is a critical element in creating any kind of meaningful and sustainable change. So, what I mean is that we can make ourselves go through some motions, but I think we've all been there where we've tried new things or new techniques or new strategies. We might have been fired up for a couple of days, but then we lose that momentum and we get distracted and we start doing other things. With mindset mastery, what you're actually doing in my approach to it is rewiring, reprogramming. So the reasons you're doing things are different and you have clarity on that. And then you're actually using that neuroplasticity, that ability that our brains all have to rewire themselves and create new, healthier, and more beneficial and productive habits. And so for that reason, that mindset is the foundation for everything else that I've been doing that has made me successful and able to sustain this now for a few years. And there's no going back. It just gets, the more you know, the better you do. And so having that clarity, when I started my transformation and I started to get some pretty big results as it compounded and I got momentum, people were saying to me, well, how'd you do it? And I'd start out, I'd be like, oh, well, I was it's about my nutrition. This is about my exercise. And then I really realized they were asking me a different question. They weren't asking me, how did I do it? They can Google that. What they were asking me is, how did I do it? How did I get to that point in my mind where I was really ready to make a decision, to commit to it, and to succeed at it? And without changing my mind, I would never have been able to change my body or subsequently the other things in my life, which includes my relationship, my professionalism, all of that.
So can you give us a few examples of specific techniques or strategies that you would use or recommend to your clients to be able to harness the power of mindset to make that change?
Absolutely. So the first thing is to get some clarity on what it is that, where you're at. Because if you're going to move from point A to point B, you got to understand where point A is and how you got there. So I had to sit with myself and I had to really gain some clarity around that. Things like writing, journaling. I know that sounds like something everybody does, but everybody says you should do it and nobody really does. But what I found out is you don't have to be Charles Dickens here. You don't have to be Stephen King to write something on a page and make it meaningful. Just writing down key words would trigger things in my mind. So taking that time to sit before I ever hit the gym was really about taking that time to sit with myself and to really get some clarity on what was my big reason for wanting to make this change. What were my motivations, and understanding that. And also looking at my challenges. What stopped me up to this point, right? So I knew the what. So now what, right? That was the next thing I had to do. So that was the first step that I would say were, concrete steps that I could take, was sitting with myself and getting right in my head around that, and then creating a plan of action steps from there. The next thing was I just had to make that decision every single day, because there were days I didn't want to get up at 6 a.m, whether it was to do a boot camp with wonderful people or whether to do some solo work in the gym, my own gym right in the basement. And I still, there were days I didn't want to do that. So I had to make that decision, like we do with everything else, with our relationships and our work, to decide how it's going to be every single day and not give myself an option of backing out. Had to remind myself, you're worth doing this. You're worthy of these results. You would do it for anybody else, so do it for yourself. So that decision-making piece, that was the second part. Then the commitment. getting up, put my shoes by the door, put my gym clothes by my bed, so that in the morning I got up, I put those on no matter what. I reminded myself. Part of that commitment is affirmations, making yourself do those little things during the day that other people think, oh, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that. But the reality is, and our good buddy Tony Robbins would say, that the difference between people who succeed and people who fail is that the people who succeed are willing to do what the people who fail won't. So that means
That's
those little tiny things, right? It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to happen overnight. It has to happen every day. And so that's what I did, is I committed to making small changes every day. And then kind of like making your bed in the morning, that military speech where if you do that one thing, then you can build off that because you already got one thing accomplished. So I really committed to doing those small tasks and proving to myself. And then it got to that point where, like, well, I don't want to undo what I did. Like, I don't want to ruin my perfect streak. So it gave me more, motivation's a tricky word, but when you start to act like this and you start to reprogram your brain, it's not about motivation anymore. It's about inspiration. So I was inspiring myself to recommit every single day. And that's really what pulled me through to get those results. And then that's where I started the third step, I'd say, is I started to celebrate my successes. And I had an amazing support group around me, which was part of my commitment to keeping those people that are going to support you and move you forward, and having that support base and that small sense of community. It started with my family and moved outwards. But really recognizing my successes, celebrating my successes, sharing them, and paying that forward, helping other people. So those were the three key elements where I'd say were certain solid action steps. Now, incorporated into that, of course, is going to be proper nutrition. It's going to be some really smart physical activity, right? But that was all part of the commit, and the decide to do it, and then the commit, and then it was again celebrating those successes.
That is very powerful stuff. I think that's awesome. I appreciate the actionable steps that people are able to take, because it's one of those things, we live in this information just drenched world. So it's not so much about information anymore. It's about the doing. It's about finding ways to make this a thing that we can apply. Right. So I think that that's absolutely phenomenal. Talking about celebrating our successes, I mean, we celebrate our genders too, but also making sure that we have the ability to set ourselves up for that success and then celebrate when it comes. So from there, I really wanted to ask you, just to go down a little bit of a different road here. I want to know, do you think that there's any misconceptions that arise about the role that a positive mindset will play in your life?
I think that a lot of people think it's not for them. I think a lot of people assume, well, that's what they think. And
like kind of fairy dairy, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think that it's sort of the way we're conditioned. If you think that when we're young, oftentimes well-meaning parents would say, like, don't get your hopes up, right? And it kind of, we don't realize that we're internalizing that will work for other people, but it doesn't work for me. How could, if it was that easy, then everybody would be doing it. Well, without that commitment to doing the little things every day, to doing those things that help you, change your mindset, you're not going to see results. So I think the biggest problem that people will face is that they say, when I see that good thing happen, then I'll feel good. Right? When I see it, then I'll have something to feel positive about. And they don't really realize that it works the other way around. What we have to do is we have to believe that we're capable of doing it. And if you fake it till you make it, that's okay. That's how we rewire our brains. There's no harm in that. And so it's really about being able to prove to ourselves what our capacity is, and then we start to see the evidence of it. But if you're waiting to see the evidence and we haven't started to make those changes, that's, I think, the biggest problem that people run into, and the misconception they can't do it is only because they haven't really been applying it, right? It works when you work it. And so I think that's the biggest problem. People think it's for other people, but not for them. And until they start to do it and feel the change, they won't believe that they're capable of doing it.
So would you say then, oops, sorry, it's trying to do something, sorry. There we go. Ignore that. So would you say that it's a possibility for, like, can anybody change their mindset? Or like, there are people who are I mean, look, we got our nice little offices here, where ladies that can go for it sometimes. But there's people in this world that do have a lot of, whether it's the things that are working against them genetically or financially or socially, in those cases, can those people still change their mindset?
Oh, absolutely. This is the beautiful thing about it. Whether you are living some life of incredible privilege or, incredible abundance or financial freedom, or whether you're not, and whether you're feeling very limited, the beautiful thing is both brains are going to work the same. So we're made of the exact same stuff. So if one person can tap into it, anybody can tap into it. Now, it may be easier because we have different pressures on us, but if we approach those pressures with the same mindset, that we can overcome it, that we can do something about it, that we can exact the change that we want to see, then any human being is able to tap into that. And I've had some of my professional experience years ago was working with clients who had acquired brain injury and traumatic brain injury. And so a lot of, the people that I've spoken to since have said, yeah, but, if there's something wrong with someone's brain or there's some damage there, here's the beautiful thing about our brains. They're just so incredible, is that when one area isn't, really up to par or has experienced some damage, other areas of our brain can kick in. We are engineered to be able to go forward and to survive and to thrive. It just requires an understanding of where we're at and what kind of activities and strategies we need to implement. But absolutely if anybody has been capable of accomplishing something great, then everybody is capable of accomplishing something great. We might be starting at different spots, but here's a beautiful thing. No matter who we are or what we have or who we know, the process is the same. And this is a one freedom that we have. No one else can get in your head and do stuff in there, but we can. So when we start to change the way we think, we change the way we are. And when we change the way we are, we change the way the things around us are and the way we see the world. So this is what's amazing about it. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has the ability to do that. Some of us are a little more stubborn and it takes us a little bit longer. But know that if it's the only thing you can recite to yourself every day is that you absolutely can, because it's biologically impossible not to change your brain if you start to think differently.
I think that's absolutely tremendous. One of the things you really taught me growing up was, how that where your focus goes, energy flows. And that is something that I've lived by. And I love the way that I kind of set you up in a bit of a trap there because yes, we are in our offices now and stuff, but it wasn't always like this. It took a major change in mindset for either of us to really get in this position. And even for yourself, and in the post, the recorded and edited version, I'm going to go ahead and put in some shots of your transformation, just some of the things that to me really indicate where I can see more joy, more freedom, more confidence in you, all these things. So it's really cool because I actually got to see you do that turnaround. And I love that you see that ability in other people, because I think at the end of the day, we really got to believe in ourselves to be able to make these things happen. So I appreciate you sharing with that so much. It's important that people know how much you can accomplish, right? And so I'm curious if you have any suggestions, if somebody wanted to make a tremendous change in their life, if they wanted to get unstuck, if they wanted to get the dream job, the dream finances, a dream relationship, where would you suggest they start when it comes to changing their mindset? What are some of the tools? Where are some of the places they can go?
First thing I'd say is to start with is to really, this is going to sound kind of weird, but forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for all the times you didn't do what you knew you should do, and stop shooting on yourself. We don't want other people to shoot on us. We shouldn't shoot on
It's
ourselves.
real shitty, isn't it?
It's real
Real
shitty.
shitty when we do that.
But it's such a true thing that we beat ourselves so much up that we forget our worthiness to be able to have the great body or to have the great life or to feel comfortable out. I don't think that a lot of us realize how much we've beaten ourselves down. So the first key element, I think, is forgive yourself. It's if it's in your past, it's in the wake. It's there's nothing we could do in the past. All we have is the present moment to act in. And the first part of making meaningful change that really lasts is forgiving yourself for the point you got to, letting yourself know that it's okay that you were there. That's what you did then. But this is what I'm going to do now. So I'd say that's a critical step. If you don't do that first, you're kind of working harder than you have to. You're pushing that river uphill. And so really getting getting to that point with yourself where you will convince yourself, even if it means getting up every day and writing it down or putting it on your mirror or whatever, you are worthy of making that change. And then whatever inspires you around that, because I want to help other people, fine. I am worthy so I can help other people. So that mindset thing, that's the first, for me, a critical element. I had to forgive myself for everything that I'd done that had gotten me to an unhealthy point so that I could move on from there.
And then
Secondly, would
once
be
we've
get
gotten to
support.
that point, so we've done some of the where's like what would be the where would one go with that?
So then you've got to really, this is where, you figure out where you're at and then you decide where you want to be. So you've got to, in order for us to create anything that was ever created, right? It was created in the mind first. And then we saw it materialize. So like your picture behind you, that was conceptualized in somebody's mind before they could produce the actual thing. And so it is with our results. So once we understand where we're at and how we got there and we forgive that, then we really have to look about, okay, where do I want to go then? So we need to have some concrete, it can change. It's not written in stone, but you need to give your brain something to know what that end outcome is going to be. If you want to create something, you got to know what it's going to look like in your brain first. So you start to ask yourself, well, what is it that I want? What's that going to look like? Use your senses. What's that going to smell like? What's that going to taste like? What's that going to sound like? Right? Really get into that visualization and imagine the end product in your mind would be the next step after that.
Is there any resources that you could recommend to people right now? Or like, for instance, I'm going to say, where can people go in terms of coaching or reaching yourself? Where can people go for help?
Okay, so what I would say is that everybody needs a coach. The best coaches in the world have coaches, right? I'm a pretty experienced coach. I have a coach, right? As you as well, right? So your mentors and your coaches. So what you're going to want to do is look for those people out there that you can connect with, the people that are speaking your language. If somebody's talking to you about coaching, and they're hitting those spots for you and something is resonating, pay attention to that, right? And so to really make a massive change, then you're going to want to take massive action, right? And so that means looking at coaches, and I'll say it flat out because it's quite a known fact. That's what we do, right? So that ability, and so we can understand and recognize the value of that for other people. But that holistic approach, right, is being able to chunk things out and say, you can handle this little step and you can handle this little step and then the next one, but do it across the board. So it's a mind-body connection. So if you're really going to try and source out some help, make sure that you get help where they're not just going, here's a quick fix for one thing, because we know it's more than that. Look for that support that's going to work with you on a foundational level. That's like a guide on the side, right? We're not expecting people as coaches to substitute their judgment, for ours. But what we want to do is be able to guide them into seeing those things, helping them realize that thing in the end. So look for your coaches like that. If somebody resonates with you vibrationally, pay attention to what they have to say.
So you've mentioned you yourself are a coach. Where can we find you for coaching?
So you can find me. My most exciting project that I'm working on right now is my collaboration with Little Fit, because I do believe the Little Fit company, because I do believe in that connection between the mind and the body. It's a two-way street, right? And it just helps us to get our results faster. So I would say, companies like Little Fit that I'm teamed up with there, you can access me through that. I do some other things that may be more like situational issues, like some of the relationship stuff and career stuff I can do through flow facilitation, which is just another outlet for me to be able to reach as many people as possible, to offer coaching on an executive level as well. Because oftentimes we know there's that relationship between work and home. So I can go in
and
and
I'll
talk.
absolutely post the links for all of these in the
Yes.
description as well,
Yeah.
for any of you guys who want to be able to get a hold of Kila, because I can say I know we've only gotten a small snippet of what you're able to accomplish here, Kila, but I mean, it's just incredible. The things that you were able to teach me. It's so weird calling you Kila. She's my mom. I call her mom normally. But just it changed my life. It's the reason I'm able to go forward and do the things that I want to do. So I appreciate that so much. You mentioned that you have Little Fit and you have flow facilitation. Are your places that's kind of like the name of the things that you're working on right now?
That definitely those two. But again, it's about getting as much reach and impact as you can. So I'm also, collaborating with another company that deals with super high, I guess the way they couch the language is super high achievers and top executives. And so I am also on a learning path to develop a strong relationship avenue for coaching and facilitating and those kinds of things there, which keeps my mind expanding all the time so that I can work with a really diverse group of people. And so I'm doing that with Play a Bigger Game, which is an absolutely amazing organization. It certainly caters to people who have certain needs, just as, physical training caters to people who have those kinds of desire for changes. So I'd say across those, different places, those are the ways you can potentially access me. And most of my on the ground work locally, I'm doing with Flow and Little Fit.
I love that. I think that's phenomenal. Little Fit is also collaborating. It's with Play a Bigger Game. It's really beautiful because one of the things I found is once you start living this lifestyle, all of a sudden the pieces of the puzzle just start fitting together in ways that I would never have expected. So it's really cool that you're able to do these things and make that impact that you're making, in these different areas, but all towards the same goal. I think that's phenomenal. It's been amazing to be able to see the outcome. So if somebody was to join with you, what would that kind of look like? Or a coach in general, if you were to receive life skills coaching, I mean, that sounds crazy. Mindset mastery, what even is that? What would that look like?
So really, it's just it's a conversation to start with, right? First, you have a conversation with yourself, saying like, well, "What am I doing, man?" Right? Like it's time, right? And then you're ready to have that conversation with a coach. Again, that guide on the side, someone who's not going to tell you what you ought to be doing, but who's going to really talk to you to find out what you want. And then we're specially trained in helping to people figure out what the next action steps are going to be, because we could talk till the cows come home. And it's great to have those conversations to get on the same page. But really, you're going to want to work with someone who is somewhat results oriented, because that's one of the things that gets our fire going. That's where the rubber meets the road, right? When we sort of get inspired and see some results from our actions and prove to ourselves that we can take actions. So when you're going through that coaching process, it's going to be some discovery, they call it. We discover a little bit about ourselves. We develop that relationship with our coaching client, and the coach is a very important piece of it. So developing that understanding in a headspace kind of way. And then the next thing that in my coaching, we can kind of look at action steps, whether that's going to be, different kinds of calls or discussing different topics. And it's really client centered. So it's what the client decides is the most important thing. That's what's going to be the priority, because if it's on the top of your mind, there's a reason it's there, right? So we could kind of go on the fly and deal with those kinds of things as they come up. But, there has to be action orientation. It just can't always be conversation. So whether that action is, here's some exercises to try that are mental, or here's some exercises to try that are physical, just some suggestions. Again, it's not to have someone tell you what to do, because you got to learn to do it yourself, or else it's not going to be sustainable, right? But that's one of the most satisfying things about coaching is you always want to coach yourself out of a job, right? You want to make sure that when the people that you're supporting leave you, they have what they need to be able to sustain that on their, they can always touch back. And it's, different times in our life, we need different kinds of coaching. But that understanding first and foremost to build the fact that the awareness that we have that capacity is one of the most critical elements, I think, with coaching. So you're going to want to see some activities beyond the discovery that follow up on what you decided as a unit, as a team working together, were going to be the priorities. So discovery, action steps, and then monitoring. Your coach needs to be checking in with you. The coach needs to be saying, how did that work out? Well, what do you think got in the way? Those kinds of conversations are what help these things develop. There's no canned, there's programs that you can go and everybody fits in. Those programs are still going to be tailored for the person. They're still going to be customized to the individual needs of the person, even if it's in a program. Those are great because they have structure and they have consistency. The end of the day, it doesn't matter what somebody's doing. If we're not paying attention to how the results are turning out, then they could be working harder instead of smarter. So it's going to be that, after you start to take those action steps and you start moving towards your coaching process, then you're going to be, or through your coaching process, then you're going to be looking at monitoring and evaluating. That's something you do actively give and go with your coach. Your coach doesn't have to say that's not working. You'll know that's not working, right?
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. I really appreciate it. I think people need to have a little bit of an idea over, what they're getting
I
into
thought
with
it was
this
like,
kind of
what is
thing.
this woo woo? Is it brain? What? No, it's all driven by the person. And once we get, here's the deal: once we get into that point where we've entered into a coaching relationship, most of the hard work is done. At that point, it was getting to that point and
Mhm.
deciding we're worthy of making that change and making that, decision and the commitment to succeed. That's the hard part. But once you go through, you'll find it's just a very guided process. You have the wisdom
Mhm.
you need. You are internally about yourself, smarter than any coach you'll ever have. But a coach's job is to help you recognize those strengths and capacities, right? And so
Absolutely.
if people understand that's what the coaching process is, it won't seem so scary. They won't think, I got to do everything they tell me. No, we're going to help you get on a path of doing what you know is going to work for you.
Amazing. Amazing. I appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk about this, talk about what this looks like, what you do, some of the moves that you're making, and how you're able to help people. I think it's really important people know that this isn't something that you have to do alone. And it's like, honestly, everything else. I know you guys on my fitness channel probably know that I do the fitness, and I would have never gotten as far as I have and I will if it wasn't for the coaches and the mentors and support and the community that I've had throughout. And it's no different. In fact, it's way, way more so when it comes to your mindset. I mean, we don't need to explain that. It's pretty complex stuff. So thank you so much, Mom Kila, for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, we'll have all of the links and details in the description below if you would like to contact Kila. We also have the opportunity, if you guys want to come and be a part of our Play a Bigger Game community each month, we also have a free seminar that we can invite you to as well. So we'll make sure that we get the info to you there. Before I go, is there anything that you would like to finish off? Anything you'd like to say before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I just want to kind of really reiterate to anybody who's listening to this and they're thinking, yeah, I want a little of that. I want to get fired up. I want to be my best self. If you're thinking it, you're ready. There, you're never going to be more ready than you are right now. So if you're thinking that way, give yourself this, because the sooner you start, the the doors that start to open for you, the awareness that starts to open for you, connect with someone who's going to help you do that and support you in doing that. Um, Definitely participate in your wellness. That means to take some action, even if you don't know where it's going to go. You just got to take the first step, right? So if you're thinking about it, then you're ready. Give yourself that gift. The sooner you start, the sooner you get there. It's amazing.
I couldn't agree more. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Because the last thing we want to do is waste more time because at the end of the day, we could be growing or we could be slowing. And we know which one of those we want to be doing.
Right?
All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll let you go ahead and go. I'll do the bit of an outro here. And I look forward to chopping this up. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I hope you have a fabulous day.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Gigs. Oh.
Just Taj, oh, don't report. I tried to report her. Kila's been removed. Only temporarily. Just so we could do the intro. So there we have it, you guys. There we have my mom. The Wonder Woman herself, Kila Kershaw. So as Mom mentioned, we are moving together into business through Little Fit and Play a Bigger Game. If you guys are interested in joining on for our program, we're actually doing a very cool collaborative situation where Mom and I are actually working together so that you get the benefit of the mindset coaching from somebody who has been doing this for 2 decades, as well as the opportunity to work with your certified personal trainer and fitness therapist. So the goal that we're trying to accomplish here is giving you the most comprehensive, well-rounded, everything in by the kitchen sink program that doesn't just get you fit, but it helps you get to that next level that you want to accomplish in life in every way. We want you to look good, feel good, and do good. So I'm so grateful that Kila has come on to just add all of the amazing knowledge she has, her passion for helping people succeed. And I mean, we get it here at the Little Fit House. So we are so happy about that. Again, you guys, thank you for watching my first YouTube Live. A little bit nervous, but you know what? Wasn't so bad. We are going to be doing a little bit of an edited version that is going to have a few extra little bits in there, some B-roll, and also a few of those shots of Kila's transformation, because you guys, it is absolutely incredible. I'm not sure if you caught that she did lose 80 pounds for her 50th birthday, and it was an amazing thing to witness. With that, you guys, I hope you have a fabulous day. I will see you at the next podcast, and